You're watching The Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
And welcome to Minute to Skim It. We review comic books for you so that you know what to get at your LCS when you show up tomorrow morning. Man, oh man, there were a lot of books releasing this week.
That's an
understatement.
Oh yeah.
So because of supply chain interestingness, producers find themselves like fighting like Roman Colosseum style for paper. And so they've got themselves scheduled like 6 months out, just like trying to get a hold of paper to be able to print things. And then it just feels like all of them end up with paper all at the same time. And so they print their entire run, their entire line all at the same time, which is crazy because last week we had a small release week.
Oh yeah.
So
we read most of what was released last week.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Many thanks to Jenna Burns and the rest of the staff who actually got all of this done because we're short because we have, people that are already outbound to San Diego Comic-Con and people that are exhausted from Comicpalooza. So
I was meeting with Thor all weekend.
You were meeting with Thor?
Yeah, I could have been, but I was meeting the store.
Oh, you're meeting the store. Not meeting with Thor. That's different.
I wish. Oh, I wish.
And ants. Yes, Jenna. Yes. We had so many fun things that happened and so many like not fun things that happened at Comic-Con. And one of them was Jenna went out to go and pull another pile of things out of the truck and bring them in the store into the con so we could set up, and ended up accidentally standing in a pile of ants while she watched a guy park across 3 parking spaces with his truck. Which is a no good. No bueno. Don't do those things. That's not good.
It's just rude.
So rude. All right. So it's con month. Probably, I think that there's at least 2 cons going on this weekend. San Diego. And then I think there's another one that's going on too. I don't know how in the world we have 2 big ones at the same time, but
and there's like a ton of like anime conventions happening up in like the New England area right now. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's loaded for the next 2 weeks full of cons.
You know what you could do to support comics during Comic-Con?
Buy comics.
Go to your LCS.
Yeah.
Buy comic books. It's nice to go to the big show and buy fancy things, but definitely don't forget your LCS because they still have the bills coming in, yo. Yeah. All right, let's do this thing. Here, I'll start with this fun one. Ignore the other stuff on the board. I didn't have time to clear it, so. Yeah. Cat Girl from Antarctic Press. This is one of those things where you can tell that Antarctic Press got hold of paper and so printed everything. So there's going to be a bunch of Antarctic Press at your LCS this week if they're an Antarctic Press carrier. Cat Girl is written by Ben Dunn, longtime co-owner of Antarctic Press. All you really need to know about this series is very manga inspired, and it really has at its heart Catman back here, who looks a little bit like Wolverine if you look at his profile, and he is how can I tell anything about this without messing up the spoilers? There's lots of spoilers in this one. Just know that Cat Girl is related to Catman. That's not a spoiler. And that she gets her superpowers during this book in a very interesting way. And it's a sizable book. It's got lots and lots of cool pages, and it's got good art in it.
a quirky origin story.
Yeah. I will say though, the theme that I saw in comic books today was the 90s are back, yo.
That is for sure. I've been seeing that the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the style, storytelling.
It can be placed in the 90s, like the mid to late 90s lately has been huge.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. You're just going to feel if you were alive back then. All you kids are going to be like, what are you talking about? All us old people are going to be like, oh, nostalgia.
I grew up with my sister who was born in 89, so I get by proxy nostalgia from that. I was born in 98, so I can't say anything. Yeah. So I'm just gonna knock this guy out.
You're gonna knock him out?
Yummy. So it's basically a Deadpool clone. It's just a Deadpool clone. That's all I'll say. It's like I love Deadpool. Like I was the reason why my dad started watching the movie. I haven't yet to read the comics, but I have read some like panels, some small pages. And it's just a Deadpool clone. That's the humor is the same, the action the same, the like quirky one-liners are the same. If you like Deadpool, read it because it was really funny, and like towards the end it gives like an origin of how like the main character is the main character. It's really good. I feel like the last couple of weeks I've been reading a lot of stuff that involve mob bosses.
Is that the same company that makes Merc?
I think so.
It has the look of that company.
I'm gonna assume so. It's a new company. At least Jenna hasn't seen them come through. I'm not sure.
I'll be able to tell you.
Yes, I mean, obviously you know more than I do.
Merc comes out from a company. I don't even know what they call the company, but Murph, who is a longtime friend of the conventions circuit, they've been kind of like at booths helping artists since they were like 16 or so.
Oh wow!
Because their dad is Bob the artist who has giant tall booths and makes really cool art. Let's see. Merv is like worked for Joe Benitez and a bunch of other people. But anyway, I did not know that Merv had super skills in art and writing and all those kinds of things. And they teamed up with with Tyndall and have been making really pretty things. But this one, it's Merc Publishing. See, Merc. Publishing.com.
There you go. That answered that.
So just know what you're going to always see, and this is a Tyler Kirkham cover, which dig them, it's beautiful. All their stuff's going to always have beautiful art.
Oh, it was gorgeous. It's gorgeous cover, the art in it was gorgeous. Like the reason I say it's a Deadpool clone, not only because of the like humor and the storyline, the art is really similar to New Deadpool from what I've seen. Like the costume design is too.
Tell me I see that his face mask has light up eyes, and to explain the light up smiley face with X eyes shoulder pads.
So the suit doesn't actually glow. It's just a decor thing. But it's like a face changing helmet, like when they have like the digital face. Yeah.
Does it like make sad face when he's supposed to be sad?
It does. It actually emotes with his expressions, and I love it. I love it so much. That's like I have a soft spot for that kind of thing in any media. It's my favorite. So yeah, I thought it was hilarious. I'd absolutely pick up another issue. I'm probably gonna read next month's issue if it comes out next month.
Was that like a Black Mirror episode where it had like the little robot that like every kid wanted?
Oh yeah.
They brought it home, and that would like make emote faces and end up being real bad.
Mm-hmm.
It
was like the robot dog episode, I think, where it was like a at-home dog, but then went rogue. It's a great episode.
Jay says I'm going to say the name wrong, but Pasan Dugan Deadpool run is amazing.
Then I will check it out.
See? This is nerds working together.
Absolutely.
Sharing.
You had beef with that before we started.
No, I don't actually. This is one of my friends has to work in this. So.
Oh, well, never mind.
Manga Z has got 3 stories in it. The other stories are fine. I'm not going to hit on them because they're actually good. But the thing that I care about is the Foxy and Wolfie story that's in here. Because Kitsune Windsor is a friend of the store. And we've been carrying Foxy and Wolfie for a long time. This is volume 1 of the work. So this way you can read the first chapter in there. It's basically really cute animal inspired anime girls. One of which is in a wheelchair. And it's just everything about it is adorable. Super adorable. So the first chapter is in the middle of this book, and I love that they featured Foxy and Wolfie as the deal. So let me look real fast because there were so many books this week that were multiple stories in the same book. Like they were like first chapters of 3 books or something, and that's the way this one ran.
That's how this one was.
Oh, this one was awesome. Okay, so the first story, this one is a fabulous jazz doll.
Oh.
And it is a black and white tale set in the 20s. It says 1920X.
Yeah.
In which the main character has abilities, but also is they're flapper, but also they're part mechanical, like robotic. So it's a really cool mashup of a bunch of different genres. And I loved it. And then there's one called The Immortal Red Fox, which I didn't get to. I have not enough time to be able to read this. Oh, and then there's a black and white. The art style is very like Link and Zelda.
Yeah.
And that part of the book reads from the back forward. By the way, there's
like a traditional manga.
There's the style of the
that's
the 20s flapper robot girl.
The little bit that I saw when you're flipping through it looks really pretty. Like, if anything, just pick it up for the art. It's pretty.
I figure for $5, you're getting like 4 or 5 books in here.
Yeah.
One of them you're bound to love, and then be like, I have to get the rest of it, right?
It's adorable. I love that. Oh, I'm definitely going to say that across.
I will preface all of what I'm saying to you with I'm not really an anime or manga person in my life. It's not that I don't like them or hate them or anything. I just have time for dedicating all my life to watch Bleach for the next 9 months to try to get into it. So it's just for lack of time. It's not because I'm like, ugh, manga.
That's completely fair. That's really respectful.
I can't even read all the independent comic books that I want to read. It's like I have one sitting over here from like 2 weeks ago that I still want to read.
Oh, it's the one that I recommended to you. I still haven't read Absolution either. Oh, we have such a long to read list.
Yes. I would take them with me on the plane, but then I'd have books on the plane that I have to figure out how to keep track of.
Figure out just where to store it.
Ooh, that one looks pretty.
So this one got delayed last month, if I remember correctly. And I'm very glad that it got delayed. That sounds really bad, but they definitely needed time to work on it. So a little lesser known thing about me is I love learning about the dark web. That's a weird. I just like it. It's so strange because it's so unknown, but yet there's a lot known about it. So there's a little thing that you can hack into webcams via dark web websites. Some
I don't know where the dark web is.
You have to get a specific browser in order to go onto it, and then you have to do it on a separate computer. So
I need
there's
witch
IP
magic.
tracking.
I got it. Witch magic.
Yeah, basically. So basically, it follows this journalist who is trying to figure out about her childhood via looking into webcams and trying to go from there. And it's slowly also ruining her marriage.
That's not good.
No. So she like enlists the help of a friend or something, and the ending is really good. I can't say much more because it'll spoil the entire thing.
Dark web.
Just dark web. Like if you like anything that involves like knowing about people hacking webcams and with how easy it is, which is so scary. It's really good if you know anything about that because she does it with ease and she does it for hours, to a point that she doesn't sleep for days. And she also experiences sleep paralysis, which is part of the reason why she doesn't like sleeping.
That would be terrifying.
I've had it. It's scary.
Tape over your lens, folks.
Yeah.
Except for if you use your lens to broadcast.
Yes. I mean, there are little like attachments that you can put on. You can slide over, and it blocks your webcam.
Go.
Yeah, and your mic too. So yeah, I recommend it. I recommend picking it up if you know anything about that side of the dark web. It's very interesting, and the art in it is beautiful. It's perfect.
Man, if people ever watched my webcam, they'd be so bored. It's like, is she processing comic books again?
That's how I feel. I'm like, if you're looking through my webcam, you're gonna see me binging like Netflix or something in my underwear in bed. You're not gonna see anything interesting. You're gonna be bored.
No. So boring. Okay. Wait, I gotta no.
Yeah.
That's all the precedent, right?
I think so.
I think I had. No, I fixed it. I was like, well, I thought I had things laying over, but I don't. Okay, so there are always, like I told you, books that come out every week that I'm like, I'm going to read this so I can hate on something because people believe that I love everything, and so maybe it's true. So, because I like this one. So this one is Defenders Beyond, which it's kind of interesting. It puts forward for this notion that the main first character is the Blue Marvel character here, which you don't have to know anything about him to appreciate this, but it is a very creative telling of a tale in order to put together a team. Mm-hmm. I hate those books that are like going, we need a team, find them.
Oh, I hate those.
And then they're like, this is purple Skyfall. This is his powers. This is why we need him. I don't like any of those things. I like it when they're just kind of like feel
the
like
heist team up kind of thing. Oh, it's so overdone.
I like it very much when it feels like everything is just kind of bumbled down and ends up together and it works out magic. Let me make sure this is the one that has my dude in it so I don't say the wrong thing. It is. Okay. So for people that have been reading anything that has to do with Doctor Strange, cover your ears if you haven't. Doctor Strange is dead. He's been dead for a while. But he left all these kind of like magic spells out there to bridge the gap. Like there was one that was out there to bridge the gap until his sister, Cleo, took over being Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah. And in this case, there is another, it's basically his head in an orb floating around, who shows up to Blue Marvel and says, I've got one last magic spell that's in play, and proceeds to present this magic tarot deck to Blue Marvel and says, pick your first card. And then the cards start feeling more and more like maybe Doctor Strange, his disembodied orb head, feels a little bit dark. I'm not sure what's going on with the cards. And at some point, Blue Marvel says, no, I'm not doing this anymore. But then the cards keep being played anyway. So in this story arc that's happening, things occur in which brings together all the players that you see here. This is Loki, but not the Loki you're thinking of. And they say that when they come out, you've got Miss Marvel, Tigra shows up, and I forgot her name. And I apologize that I don't know everybody's name, but this feels like a ridiculously awesome put together of a group, and they just seem like fun. Yeah. Like maybe Blue Marvel's the fuddy-duddy of the group, but you've got to have a grounded adult. And I love so much this character is doing the heart hands. So this one, I think that, like sometimes things skew young or skew to like people that have been around for a long time. This one's a good middle ground because I feel like that Ms. Marvel and the Loki character and Tiger are meant for like appealing to the younger crowd, and then the others are for us old dudes.
To the people like me that did not grow up with Marvel, but grew up with the movies.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna knock out a Calculated Man because we both read the first issue last month, and
I can't believe I need to read this one.
It's good. it expands on the girl that he met up with online on a dating app. That if you read the end of the last issue, it gives context. He's been going on dating apps and meeting or like matching up with girls, and this is the first girl that has continued speaking to him.
Let's get him caught up first. So, who is the main character?
So the main character is Jack Beans. He is a mob hitman. And he can't lie. He can't. He has no ability to lie. And he has
Which is why the mob kept him around.
Yes, because they know that he won't rat them out to the police.
No, and that they could ask him every day, "Did you rat us out?"
Yeah,
you have to tell the truth about it.
Yeah, which is perfect. And he has a form of synesthesia where he can see the colors of numbers. So it makes doing math easier. And also pushes away any potential girlfriend that he has ever tried to have as an adult.
Yes. So think The Accountant, if you watched that awesome Ben Affleck film.
I still need to. It's on my watch list now because of this book series.
Wait.
But we also have an internet in like 2 weeks. But it's I loved it. It expands a bit more on why the mob has been keeping him around, and focuses in more so on the fact that this girl doesn't really believe that he actually works for the mob.
Is he upfront about it? Because that's always so funny.
Oh no,
people just say
he's honest about it, and she thinks that it's just part of role play. And she doesn't believe him. So she keeps up like this whole role play that's going on. And she doesn't believe it while he's actively like in the middle of shooting somebody while he's texting her. It's great. I love it. It is so quirky. It is adorable. Like the romance part is like slowly becoming like a main part of the storyline.
So now it's becoming Gross Point Blank.
Oh, that's why I love it so much. Oh, I didn't even think of that. I love that movie so much. Oh, it's fantastic. Especially it is giving Grosse Pointe Blank vibes now. It's perfect. I recommend it, especially if you've seen The Accountant. If you love Grosse Pointe Blank, it's beautiful. I recommend picking it up before it starts flying off the shelves because it definitely is going to with this type of storyline picking up now.
Yeah, we hand sold the #1 issue like crazy.
Yeah,
anyone that even looked near the book, we're like, ha ha ha.
Like I was recommending it to people like crazy, and people were coming back and saying they loved it.
I like that we get to do that because there's nothing weirder than someone like recommending a book based on the pitch that they saw online when they ordered it, but then they didn't read it.
Yeah.
I'll always be honest with you guys. If you come in and you're like, is this book any good? I'd be like, I don't know. The pitch sounded good enough for me to buy 20 copies.
Yeah.
So that's as good as I get if I haven't read it. But I will tell you guys if I don't.
Yeah. We're honest here.
All right, so here's where we go straight down to the 90s rabbit hole.
Perfect.
This is Artist Elite, which is a new company that dropped a bunch of stuff today. So Artist Elite has 3 stories in it. One called Sand Wenches, which is everything you expect from a 90s story in which you have a group of female heroes as the main characters. Yep. Good art. I'm not saying anything bad about it. The 90s was an awesome time.
Oh, yeah.
You guys don't understand how awesome 90s is. But it had a mood and a tone that's very clear. When you have women whose poses couldn't happen in nature without dislocating their spine. So just know you're going to see gorgeous art. But things are not possible for a female body. And, not pouches. I don't think pouches is the thing that came through. Not in this case, at least. There's another book in here, another first chapter called Final Boss, which is this character, the fellow that looks like he came straight out of Street Fighter. And then this one is The Lost Serpent Prince. And that one's the one that starts the book, I think. Yep, every year you went to San Diego Comic-Con, 90s. So this one is a good start, but just if you were not a fan of the 90s at all, then maybe maybe you won't like it. But the thing that's so funny about the sand wenches is like this main character. And by the way, the art where they have their their beautifully coiffed hair.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you like the hair that you see for like J. Scott Campbell or Mike Turner, that like perfectly everything is all the curls are in place. That's what the art looks like for the sand wenches. But this main character, she has a thing for pickles, which I don't understand. She has a pickle on her shirt. She has a pickle face mask.
It's so weird.
She's obsessed with pickles.
Such a weird specific. I don't know why that just made me laugh so hard.
Never boring. Never boring. It comes. I'm sure that they said we have to have something that makes her very different. She looks like Fairchild from Gen 13, but we got to make sure that people know she's not Fairchild from Gen 13.
We got to make her very specific, very unique, quirky.
Mad props to you guys that worked on this book. It's a great book.
It's gorgeous.
Isn't that a dilly? That's right.
So Rogue's Gallery, not what I was expecting it to be, actually. So it follows a bunch of fans of a comic that got turned into a TV show. So it doesn't even follow like characters or anything. It just follows a bunch of like nerds, like us, that are upset about the adaptation of their comic Red Rogue, and it being destroyed as a TV show adaptation, which I feel that heavily. I really I've seen so many shows destroyed as an adaptation. Oh, I can't even list them. And it's a heist. It's not heavy on the heist part.
Are they stealing the creators and telling them they have to fix it?
Basically.
Yeah.
They're stealing the original source material, and what it sounds like it's going to turn into a hostage situation and basically threaten her to fix the show and make it better and actually listen to the fans.
That's so fun.
I'm very interested to see where it's going to go because it ends with the beginning of the heist. I'm not a huge fan of heist storylines. Sometimes it's kind of cliche and just kitschy. And I feel like it's going to go really well with this because it's a bunch of like adults and a teenager.
Word for Sonic. Oh my word.
Oh gosh.
I need to turn you on to a copy of Kaiju Score.
I need to start
my favorite heist book.
That was one of those I needed to start. It's on my to-read list, but it's so long now. But this is, if you are also a fan that is angry with how certain like comics have been depicted in film and media, pick it up because you will relate hard. I have seen so many pieces of work destroyed because of the adaptation, and this, I felt so seen as a now comic reader and also growing up with comic film. It's perfect. It is fantastic, and it's it uses Discord or an off-brand version of Discord. Which is like a community server hub kind of thing, and uses it perfectly. It is fantastic. Pick it up. I recommend it. It's only in the bottom because I just wasn't completely in it. Yeah, it's great.
You guys should
fantastic.
Name some adaptations of comic books that the finished product barely resembled the source material.
The Flash. Just saying. The Flash.
Oh my God, that was fast. You didn't have to think about it very long.
Because I wasn't a huge fan of the Flash, but I feel like they could have done it better.
All right, I'm guessing this is really actually 80s. Oh yeah, Dolph Lundgren's Punisher, absolutely. This one is probably 70s and 80s related, but then 90s kids picked this up. This is a book series that probably could have, and I'm surprised didn't happen back when these toy lines were launched, because they were so similar, and they're like their leanings were to like have things that would gross you out, because that was like my kids' generation. It was about sour candy, which didn't make any sense to me at all. So this is like sour toys. Madballs versus Garbage Pail Kids. It would only been better if they put in muscle figures in there and put in a scratch and sniffs that smelled like the plastic they were made out of.
I would have loved that. Oh.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is back-to-back storylines. The first story in it is about a family that has decided to move into a house that looks just like a regular ranch, you know, like everybody's had back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And the two houses on either side of this house are like obvious, like haunted house looking houses. Like seriously, like if you drew a cartoon of a haunted house, this would be it. The dad explains that clearly those houses are going to be torn down pretty soon, and then their house will be like the jewel of the neighborhood.
Pristine.
Yeah. But then they meet their neighbors who actually do live in those houses, and in the houses live the Madballs crew here that introduce themselves. So if you don't know anything about Madballs, they'll introduce themselves and tell you their names and stuff and what their, you know, kind of like abilities are, just kind of like come out in the storyline. And then all of the Garbage Pail Kids, which has Adam Bomb doing his regular thing, and then all of the ones you're used to. The most famous of the cards are the ones they chose, of course.
Oh, I love that.
And then the second story is like a sports related one in which they like are on opposite sides of a sports. I think it was baseball. I didn't get to finish that part of the book. But the art is exactly the style that's on the front here. And it's actually a good book. I wouldn't be able to tell you that you should just skip this one because it's cool.
I never got into Garbage Pail Kids, but I always loved like the concept because they made it to make fun of people who loved Cabbage Patch Kids, and also used it to make fun of people who collected baseball cards. It was just a parody thing back in the 90s, and I was very excited when that came out. I was super excited.
Jay, you're right. Garbage Pail Kids has had a big resurgence. We have people come in and ask for them all the time, but we don't do cards on our side. That's our sister store that does that. So
I think Target's the only one that's selling them right now. I haven't seen them outside of Target.
And then, hi Kenneth, welcome.
Okay, so the first of two cult things. So this thing definitely leaned into the fact that it is referencing into cults. That's what I figured in the first issue. So basically, to give a synopsis, there were 7 babies born all at once, all throughout the country, or all throughout the world. And they were like supposed to be the second coming of the god that they worship in this.
Unless you think it's Christian god, it's not really.
It's just a god. It's just a general, believed god. So they explain it a bit better in this, that one of the sons, because it was all boys born, one of the sons is like supposed to lead the prophecy, and they explain a bit more that it's all BS and that that's not actually like a thing. It's a cult being a cult. I mean, and they lean heavily into that. So if you know anything about Jonestown and the history of Jonestown, you'll love this. Because the general the general upbringing of Jonestown definitely is leaned into this. That's like one of my favorite cults. And a little bit of Waco, but mostly Jonestown. So I recommend picking this up if you love anything that revolves around cults. Because it's so, I loved it. That's like one of those rabbit holes that I go down every once in a while, and this is fitting in so well with those rabbit holes that I love. So I recommend it strongly.
Oh, I'm so happy for this book. All right, so my friends Garrett Gunn and Kit Wallace and David Lentz and Christy Blanche have gotten together again. This is a creative team of Good Boy and a great many other awesome books. This is Little Red Ronin, which takes the kind of storytelling style of what a Ronin tale would be like, and stuck in the Little Red Riding Hood kind of universe, where there is rumor or lore of a giant wolf that has been told for a long time. And the main character, her grandmother is missing. I'm not really sure what happened. And she has a little bro, and she believes very much in the lore of the wolf, and she may or may not have seen it at some point in her life, and she has taken it upon herself to go and find the wolf and slay it, Ronin style.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome art. The art style is exactly this art. It's no bait and switch.
Ooh, I love that.
And just like always, I believe it's a 3-issue series. That's usually the way that theirs come out, which means it's not going to cost you a butt of money. And it looks like kind of a mixture between a raccoon and
a red panda.
Yeah, red panda. Maybe he's a red panda. I think he's a red panda.
It would make sense.
That makes sense. For the
yeah.
red
Yeah. I'm gonna knock out the other cult story that I wasn't a fan of. It leaned too heavy, and so I like when it's a subtle thing of like the cult mentality and like the cult like storyline. Like this thing, it already starts into the cults. This thing, it makes zero sense. It's just suddenly here's a cult and he's part of it. It takes place like post a war. It doesn't specify which one. It doesn't give like a time. But it says Model T, so I'm assuming like the early 1900s, around then.
No, you think Model T was 1900s? Oh,
yeah.
Lord help us.
18.
Our educational system has failed us.
Blame all
Model
the
T
states.
came out in the 20s.
1900. I mean, it's still 1900s. Well, he makes a reference to the fact that like
1980 is 1900s fire.
Well, I mean, like early, like 20th, 19th century, like that early time frame.
Yes, okay.
I'm
just being silly.
Yeah, I'm bad at history still. But I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'm not a huge fan of war storylines. That might be it. Because it like references back to like heavily to a war, and I'm like, okay, this is post something war. It's not like it wasn't like referencing back to World War One. It was just a war.
Sometime between 1900 and 1900. Now both your knees hurt. Yes, in the if you say the 19th century, it's really 1800 and something.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was good with Renaissance history, not with like now, like from like the past, like from like Civil War on. It's not good with construct. I mean, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. If you like war storylines with like a hint of like I have to be part of a cult to like solve a mystery, that go for it. I'm most likely not gonna read it again. If it like
I'm have to read it now because you're like giving it heck. So.
I don't know. Like that's just me. Like I've never really been a fan of like war storylines. That's never really been my thing.
I love them.
Like, yeah. Then I feel like you'll love it. I just wasn't a huge fan. Yeah. So that says a lot. Mm-hmm. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm a little bit obsessed with books that live in a wartime.
Yeah.
I don't really care what the wartime is, honestly. I just like it. Especially if they're like, we're just in the middle of a war. Yeah. But magic.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing. Like this is just based in like some reality. With a little bit of like, I'm assuming sci-fi there for fun. It was giving me Borderlands, but not in a good way. Like the video game Borderlands, with like the like stylistic parts of like the clothing. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, just wasn't a huge fan. I feel like you'll love it. I just wasn't.
Well, that's the cool thing about comic books in general. You don't have to love everything that everyone else loves.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. This one actually puts out a really interesting premise. It picks up right after the last big series of Shang-Chi. Mm-hmm. So if you read it, great. And if you didn't, as long as you watch the movie or have some kind of idea that there are 10 rings of power that Shang-Chi and before him, his father used to have a lot of power. His dad was the head of kind of like a Yakuza kind of organization. And in this book, there's stuff that goes on that makes him really wonder whether his dad was evil, which he's clearly played out to be in the series and the movie and all that stuff, or did the rings have influence over him? Mm-hmm. And really in this book, he is worried enough about the rings that he has locked, when he's not using them, he locks them away, 3 stories away from him.
Yeah.
Which makes it really hard to defend them if someone else knows that they're available to take.
Yeah.
So come and enjoy. It's very cool.
Perfect.
I can't see what you said because something tuna or salmon tacos. Deciding tuna. Neither
both.
one. Fish tacos are disgusting. Always beef.
What? What? This is news. I didn't know that you didn't like
beef
fish.
Or chicken. I'm from California. You have to be from California to like fishy tacos.
I love fish.
Or barbacoa. Barbacoa.
All I've had today is curry. All I've had today is deer curry.
Although I will preface this by, I know that Pablo's going to be an amazing cook because he's always posting up what he's making for dinner. And so probably if he made me fishy tacos, I would eat them and probably love them. I'm fighting words.
Now.
Sorry. Look at how there's a family.
We got a war going on now.
There's a husband and wife team going, no.
Well, to get off of that subject before war starts.
How do you not eat fish tacos in San Diego? Quite easily.
Exactly.
I go to Little Italy and eat a butt ton of pasta.
Well, so aside from that, wildfires. So I know a lot about the wildfire system, which is part of the reason why I wasn't interested in this.
Why do you know a lot?
I love the wildfire. So there was a law that got passed a few years ago in California that inmates that are not at high risk of running and being an escaped inmate can volunteer to be part of the wildfire fighting system in California, because there aren't a lot of volunteer firefighters that want to go out and do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they educate you on that in this, which is part of the reason why I was bored of it, because I know the history.
Mm-hmm.
And this story follows a group of 4 or 5 female inmates that live in California and obviously are inmates in California.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, the people that are inmates that volunteer for this are life sentences, or low risk for parole, or low possibility for parole. So they have less of a chance of really wanting to escape because they already know their chances are slim for even just seeing the real world. So this is the closest thing that they can. It's a very interesting part of it because it can also lower their sentences if they do this for long enough, because it's a volunteer system. They don't really
sounds like space westerns where they're like, if you go out into space with us and do the dangerous work, then you can work off your sentence.
Basically, that's what they do in California, from what I'm aware of. I don't know if the law's changed in the last few years. But I was expecting this to take place in space. It did not. It takes place in California during wildfire season. And it is, if you want to educate yourself on the wildfire system and how they use inmates as firefighters, I recommend picking this up if you want to educate yourself a bit. I know so much about it that I just didn't find it interesting.
All right, so you forgot to mention the most important part of this book. Who writes this book?
I'm going to assume it was Scott Snyder. There's 3 different names listed.
Scott Snyder.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of Scott Snyder stuff lately, and I realized that after I looked at the name, and I've been reading I think 2 or 3 of my books the last couple of weeks have been as Scott Snyder.
Usually Scott Snyder is working with Capullo. This is him working away from Capullo.
Yeah. He's been doing a lot of Image lately, not really IDW. Yeah. I'm not surprised, but I've been loving his writing though.
Scott K. Snyder? It just says Scott Snyder, man. I don't know. Okay, so it's time to jump in to Judgment Day. This is the AXE or AXE title that everyone's been like, I don't know if I want to jump into another big event thing that's going on. And I will tell you, I was one of those people. And then, dadgummit, I read this book. And now I'm going to have to read the rest of it because I like where they're headed here. So what I didn't understand is how in the world the Avengers, X-Men, and Eternals were going to be able to be drawn into another conflict of any size. But the way they explain it now makes sense. They had a lead into this in which it was clear that the Eternals were gunning for the mutants, but it never really said why. At least I didn't catch on why. It didn't make any sense to me. But do you guys remember if you saw the Eternals movies, the Eternals specifically are protective of the human race in as much as they want to protect them from the deviants, right? You guys remember deviants? That there were like those weird monstery things that they were destroying when they were talking about the origin story of how they interact with the humans themselves. Mm-hmm. Well, as it turns out, it appears that mutant kind are just deviant adjacent, so that the thing that makes them mutants is part of deviant DNA in some way. So therefore, Eternals see mutants as being deviants that they should cleanse from the human pool, which is a lot of them. And that explains much more clearly why the Eternals are now set on this path of coming after not only the mutants that are on Krakoa, but also on Arakko, which is Mars. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of beings. And you've got the Avengers, which are going to have problems with that. So also, if you love the idea of, the Avengers have had, they've been having their headquarters inside of a giant celestial. That's going to come into play. I think Iron Man's going to have a special skill that he's going to draw on, which is going to be cool. And there is the first appearance or the revelation of something that I don't think that we knew existed that shows up big time in this book. So if you are waiting around for where's the next big first appearance of something, it's probably this book. Don't miss it. And add it to your polls because Lord knows all of us LCSs are ordering real tight right now. Oh, yeah. Because of weeks like this week when you get every book in the universe at one time.
Oh, yeah. Like most of what I was seeing today was just Image. I mean, I say this as this is Dark Horse.
Probably says deviants, people who buy comics every day.
Hey!
That's me.
Lonesome Hunter. So a little bit of background on the first issue. So this dude watched his dad get murdered by this like demon creature that I guess takes form as a magpie or like a demonic magpie. Love magpies. There's just something about them. They bring an omen of bad news. Crows just bring an omen of death. Magpies are worse. And it's just exposition. This issue is just expositional of just like the magpies are evil and and they're all like working together to like take down this old dude that knows too much. And that's it. There wasn't really a lot of story in this. It was just exposition. Just a fluff to give a bit more background. If you read the first issue, recommend picking this one up. I'm hoping it's going to start like slowly going into bigger of a storyline next issue. But it's just one of those that you can read in your free time, essentially.
Free time, you say?
Whenever I have it.
Okay. This is definitely a book that I picked up so I could hate on it. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
Oh, I am so wrong. So I don't know why I thought that Prophet #1, which is out tomorrow, was a rehashing of old Prophet stuff.
That's what Previews World was saying. That's why I didn't end up picking it up. Okay then.
This is new stuff. Unless I just missed an entire story arc of Prophet in general. Mm. And if this is exactly what Prophet #1 is, then yay! It's so good. Hey, Baruchi-san! Everyone give thumbs up! So, Prophet, by the way, Nick, I gave much love to Madballs and Garbage Pail Kids. It's awesome. So in Prophet, you don't have to know anything about Prophet as a character. It tells you essentially that he gains a lot of his like energy or power from this floating platform. I forgot what it actually calls it. It's something that's creative, but kind of like, you know, Tony Stark had like his thing floating in space, like threw stuff down to him when he needed it. Mm. This one is just energy. Mm. And this one explains that he has been, he needs to try to get back to it because I guess he's not powered down. He still has lots of power. And he has a character that he's kind of acquired from another team that's part of the Image universe because he's associated a lot with Youngblood. Youngblood #2 is his first appearance, as a matter of fact. And then the character kind of is like if you took Puck from the X-Men and Cable and put them together as one per character. That's kind of the way this character looks like. And the other thing I really love about it, honestly, is I know you guys probably know this about me. I'm a Sunday school teacher, and I really like when I don't really care if people use, you know, like say crazy things about religion. I just want them to be accurate in their source material, please. I don't care if you're talking about the Quran or whatever. Just be accurate in your source material, please. Yeah. And in this case, this one starts out. I mean, I guess his name is Prophet. That's his last name, by the way. But it has like a whole lead-ins because the character, whose name is John Prophet, he's a man of faith. Like he got his faith from his dad. Yeah. And it's a very sincere thing. I like it when you're like, you feel free to like believe the things you believe and put it in a comic book. But yeah, it's awesome. And there's the other thing that's neat about this issue is that it cycles through artists, and I think these are artists that have traditionally worked on the book at one point or the other. So like the cover that I just had is Stephen Platt, who I call Splat. That's what it looks like on the front cover. And then a bunch of other artists, and some of them are like when you turn the page, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so good. Perfect. So okay, you got any more? Oh, yes.
Do a Powerbomb.
Powerbomb.
I was leaving this to last. You already know. Sorry, our other behind the scenes person just walked in. And we both watch wrestling. We both watch All Elite Wrestling every week. For a matter of fact, she went to a show for her birthday. Woo!
That's great.
And
you do your thing.
Okay.
Look at me.
So Jen had an instant. But so here we are. So yeah, it's really funny. I actually like chuckled at one point. And I thought it was really entertaining. I thoroughly enjoyed
keep going.
I'm trying to avoid getting on the books. So I chuckled. It was really funny. At one point, the necromancer is just like super self-aware. There's so much chaos going on behind the scenes right now. And there's only 7 minutes left. And so there's always a power bomb done. Always. Not in this issue though. I think there was at one point somebody got suplexed and stabbed with a fork. I'm not surprised. I saw somebody get stabbed with a fork like 2 weeks ago.
Real life or in wrestling?
In wrestling.
It happens.
It does happen. And fluorescent light to happen. There's a lot that actually happens in wrestling.
Great.
And it was great. If you are into wrestling, I strongly recommend picking this up. And at the end, and like the little like clips and like snippets from like the writers and like fans and stuff, it mentions that the writer of this actually started writing this because he never had seen superheroes and wrestling put together. And he grew up being made fun of for loving wrestling, and also being made fun of for liking comics, and wanted to put them together. And this is it. This is his baby. And he went through like the history of like his dad making fun of him and like lightly bullying him for liking wrestling. And I, being new into wrestling, I've only been into it for like 3 months now because of my roommate and coworkers. It is great. And it definitely has like a good sense of humor, and there's necromancy thrown in there for fun. It's beautiful. I love it. I recommend it if you enjoy wrestling and superheroes and sci-fi and all that stuff. It is really good. I'm very excited to see where it's gonna go. So yeah.
Also, after the Powerbombs and welcome Preston. Are you Preston Nation? I'm sure we have a bunch of people that watch us from different places that use different names. I'm just going to try to figure out. This awesome thing drops also tomorrow. This is Something is Killing the Children slipcase book that is really nice. So if you like to have fancy things for your shelf, hunt this down. And the other book I wanted to mention real fast as we're getting ready to log off is that coming soon to a movie theater near you, Super Pets.
Yay.
So you might go and look. There are these new DC graphic novels for kids books that are showing up about the Super Pets themselves. All right, everybody. That is all we have to review for today. There's tons more comic books that are out this week. So do go and support your LCS. Keep your ears and eyes peeled for news that's coming out of Comic Con. I'm sure that, I've already seen stuff start dropping.
Oh, yeah.
It's important to kind of pay attention to those. I know that you guys take good care of your comic books, but they also might mention books that are out right now as being kind of things to go and you might grab them up before they become super expensive. If they sound interesting to you.
And San Diego, New York typically have exclusives that you can't find anywhere else.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's including with fingers and pops.
That, yeah. The disembodied voice behind the scenes is correct.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, everybody. This has been a really fun. I dropped my iced tea on the floor and now I'm secretly crushed because I don't have iced tea now. Send iced tea. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been Miss Jen.
I've been Liam.
And we'll see you guys next time for Minute to Skim It.
Bye.
Bye.